Thank you all for being here. I know traffic this morning was particularly a bear, so I appreciate everyone being here. I just want to start out a little bit about kind of my story. So I used to think that time was our most precious resource, and as time progressed and as my hands became 47-year-old hands, I recognized that it wasn't just time for me, but it was actually my hands. So I started struggling. I, like many of us, type all day long, and I was having more and more pain with my hands. So much of what this comes out of, or where I became curious, was as a result of really just a wrist injury and a lot of pain. And so much of what I do today is really just natural language. So what you'll see here, I built just speaking to these tools. And thankfully over the summer I had surgery and my hand's much better, but still struggling with that. And now I've just come to a point where I just talk. So with that, I'll give you a little bit about kind of where I started. So really, my whole kind of thought process for this presentation was how do we make our lives easier as a result of AI? And so I'm going to give you a couple of tools that I use in my class. The first one is a course note taker. And you're probably thinking, why do we need a course note taker? We want folks to be in class. Yes, we do. We always want them to be in class. But how many of us get this email? I'm so sorry I missed class today. Did you share anything important? Never, really never. So I said, okay, this is something that's repetitive, right? I get this multiple times a week. Why can't I just automate this process, right? Like, why am I doing this? Why am I responding? And I don't think students mean to be rude. I really think they're trying to connect and they really want to understand. And many times they have legitimate reasons for being absent. So what did I do? I said, okay, let's automate this response. So here's kind of my process, and I'll give you one after a kind of a worksheet of how I did this, so I'll go through step by step. But I use a multitude of different tools to make this happen. So essentially I record my class lecture with Granola. So I just set my laptop at the front of the class. After class is over, I click a button that says, we'll send this off to Notion. And if you've used Notion, you know it's an amazing second brain for us. I then take those class notes, and I have what I use, Zapier, which is a connector basically of web applications. And anytime a student sends a note to my email, and it'll say something like 1031 advertising, Zapier prompts an email back to them. So it pulls from my Notion database the notes for my class, and it sends them the response. The really beneficial part to this that I found is, one, I don't have to answer this, but two, all of us have all of this information in our syllabus, right? But inevitably, whatever it is that you're talking about that day, right? My syllabus might have said we're talking about brand communities, but we talked a little bit about brand communities and something else. It's just so easy with this note to talk about exactly what we discussed in class. And there's always circumstances where I might say, hey, I need to send you guys a follow-up email about this assignment. All of that is in my notes summary. Okay, so it's just so specific to what we did. It makes it super easy. I have some filters set up, so only students that are AU students can access my class notes. I also have a filter set up so that they only have a week to do so. So there's some urgency in that. But this has just been a really beneficial way for me to automate some of the repetitive stuff that happens, and it makes it easy for me. All right, so this is, if you haven't used Notion, this is one of my Notion databases, but essentially all of what you're seeing here is automatically sent to this database. So I use this for a variety of things. If I'm having a lecture discussion, if I'm meeting with a colleague, if I'm just kind of talking to myself, I use all of this for Notion. You'll see here it says coaching session. If we have time, I'll come back to that. I have the little boxing glove, and I'll tell you what that means. All right, the next kind of tool that I use in class, and I try to explain to my students, I teach marketing strategy. I tell them there's a lot of opportunity with repetitive tasks for you to automate some of this work. So what do we do? I think I can have a short video here to explain. We use Typebot. I'll kind of let you go through and see what's happening here. But much of what we're doing in content creation is repetitive, right? I mean, we're doing this over and over. So I ask my students to actually build these Typebots, just a version of chatbot, where they can pull up information to understand a particular brand's voice, right? So what's happening here and what they're automating is this connection between what the brand wants to sound like and what product descriptions or content creation need to sound like. And if we're doing these things on a daily basis or a weekly basis at a company, why not automate this process? I'm cutting out a little bit, but this is one example, right, where we can create a brand voice. But let me give you another example, and this might help. So this is obviously much more sophisticated, but, and I'll kind of read off some of these, might be hard to see, but let's say I want to talk about what's happening in sustainability and fast fashion this week. I can use this Typebot to create an Instagram post, a LinkedIn post, a blog post, a keyword blog, a Medium blog, a newsletter, press release, YouTube. All I need to do is prompt it with what I want to talk about, and then we can identify ways to use all of these formats in some sort of content portfolio, a campaign, etc. So what I'm trying to teach my students is, if you're doing this kind of work, right, can we make some of this process that would necessarily be repetitive, can we automate this and make it much easier? So this is another tool that we work on in class with students. And I have 2 minutes left, so just talk about some other fun stuff I try to do. Going back to my Granola notes. If you're really brave, you can ask Granola at the end of the week to tell you how your week was. So sometimes I'll say to Granola, come up with a kind of a one-pager and coach me on my week. And I intentionally have this boxing glove because it can get pretty snarky, but it'll tell you what you did well, where you wasted your energy, where you should have done other things. It's really an amazing kind of device. So Granola, I think, is amazing. Other things that we're doing in class, we're doing app building. So what I showed you with Typebot is one example. This semester I'm using Kogod. The students are building an app for a group company that does work with college students across the country, and this app will essentially tell each of these brand ambassadors where new trends are happening in their local community. So we're scraping Instagram, TikTok, Facebook for local trends and building content based on the city they're in. And just some other things that I have my students working on. So reverse prompting. If you've figured out over multiple iterations how to prompt chat for something that you really think is beneficial, why not ask it, what should I have said at the beginning, right? How should I have done this? So I also pull all of this, put this into a knowledge database, and then we store this over the semester. So just some fun, exciting kinds of things I think are amazing for students, but also for me, going back to kind of where I started, most of what I've done throughout this entire semester is all done just by natural language. So I'm not actually even typing most of what I'm doing. So I'll leave you with what can we automate today and questions. I think I have 2 minutes. Oh, sorry.
Hi, Andrew Taylor from the Arts Management Program. Love this, thank you. I'm curious, because it feels like AI raises the floor on bad writing, but it also lowers the ceiling sometimes. So how do you help the students know when the generated text is actually not for people?
So in the Typebot example, we always have the human in the loop phase. So we never post or would want to post without somebody seeing it. So we talk about that continuously. But when we're speaking about kind of content creation for Instagram or Facebook, what we're talking about is really 2 to 3 lines max. So I wouldn't say it's particularly sophisticated writing in general, but yeah.
So how do they know? I mean, how do they understand what is giving them slots?
Well, so a couple things. One, we're going to go back to what the company's doing, right? So in our particular example, we take a lot of this, feed it back to our entrepreneur, because this is a community partner project, and ask them, is this relevant to XYZ? Our goal is to be able to utilize these prompts in such a way that they become sophisticated enough, and also they become relevant enough to whatever it is that they're doing, where we're getting better over time.
Sarah Gilchrist in the library. I'm curious about your automated responses and whether or not it's ever sent something like your personal notes by accident. So where did it do the wrong thing?
Wrong thing. Usually the wrong thing is it just doesn't work, so it won't send. The way it's set up, they have to use the exact subject line. So 1031 advertising. If they don't do that, they aren't going to get anything. Because it's also set up to send that request to my email, I see their request. So even if it doesn't work, I see that. Zapier will also tell you if it doesn't work. So it'll say, hey, this zap didn't work today, or 3 zaps were attempted and none of it worked. Now you have that microphone.
So they actually have to, they know that they're getting a bot generated response.
Absolutely. Yeah, and there's no, I don't want them in any way to think they're making up for not being in class, but I do want them to know that this is an opportunity for us to have further conversations, and it has worked. So they'll send me a note, I can see their note, and then they oftentimes will say, well, what did you mean by this in the summary? And then we can talk about that.
Hi, Kelly. Thank you for introducing a lot of cool tools. So I think we're eager to try those out. So, but for most of us, we are more familiar with like Zoom. So we know that the Zoom AI has been like also been fantastic in like keeping notes, right? So summarizing. How do you compare the like the note-taking tools like you are using with Zoom? So why does it take you to use that?
So Granola is a text-first application. So it is not providing us with a video or audio recording, it's text first. So all it's doing in the cloud, so I don't get the audio recordings or the video recordings, I just get the text. And for me, that's all I wanted, right? I don't want to have a repository of videos everywhere. I've just found it integrates easier with Notion and with Zapier. The other thing I will say about this is our EDU email does not integrate well with most things. So what I've had to do is take my calendar, my EDU calendar, and publish that to Gmail and my Google, and everything runs from my Google Calendar. So Gmail is just much easier for most of these tools to implement.
I like Gmail too.
Yeah.
I had a question about what program did you use to create your presentation without your hands? I'm just curious.
Oh, so I stole this design from Katya in Kogod, she's kind of our whiz. So I just lifted that intellectual property as far as the actual the design piece. And then as far as what do you mean as far as?
Because you said you didn't use your hands to create the presentation?
Oh, I use Notion for the most part.
Oh, okay. Okay, so they just built the presentation for you
Notion,
through
Claude.
sound? Okay.
Claude's also great. Claude, my only struggle with Claude is at the end of most days they kick me out because I've done too much work on Claude.
Thank you so much.